Do you know this story in America's history? Well, after America's revolution, France had a revolution. But where our founders had repeated references to faith, France turned away from Christian faith. After George Washington's 2 terms in office, John Adams was elected the 2nd president of the United States. The situation in France had changed. There was a French Revolution and an atheistic reign of terror. In Paris, Robespierre headed up the Committee of Public Safety, which accused, arrested, and then beheaded 40,000 of the businessmen, the wealthy, the royalty, including King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. All churches were closed and religious monuments destroyed. Graves were desecrated, crosses were forbidden, public and private worship was outlawed, and Christian education outlawed. Priests and ministers and those who harbored them were executed on sight, all in an intentional campaign to de-Christianize French society, replacing it with a civic religion of state worship. Hundreds of thousands were killed throughout France, especially in the religious area called the Vendée. French privateers ignored treaties and then in 1798 had seized nearly 300 American ships bound for British ports. Talleyrand, the French Foreign Minister of Affairs, demanded millions of dollars in bribes in order for them to leave the American ships alone. Known as the Xyz Affair, the American Commission of Charles Pinckney, John Marshall, and Elbridge Gerry refused to pay the extortion fee. The cry went out across America, millions for defense, but not 1 cent for tribute. As America and France came close to war, President John Adams asked George Washington, now retired at Mount Vernon, to again be the commander of the American Army. Washington agreed, writing on July 13, 1798, "Satisfied you have exhausted to the last drop the cup of reconciliation, we can, with pure hearts, appeal to heaven for the justice of our cause, and may confidently trust the final result to that kind providence who has heretofore and so often signally favored the people of these United States. Feeling how incumbent it is upon every person to contribute at all times to his country's welfare, and especially in a moment like the present, when everything we hold dear and sacred is so seriously threatened, I have finally determined to accept the commission of Commander-in-Chief." President John Adams declared a day of fasting on March 23, 1798, and again March 6, 1799, saying, "The people of the United States are still held in jeopardy by the insidious acts of a foreign nation, as well as by the dissemination among them of those principles subversive to the religious, moral, and social obligations," referring to the French infidelity that was infecting the campuses of the universities in America. John Adams went on to say, "I hereby recommend a day of solemn humiliation and fasting and prayer, that the citizens call to mind our numerous offenses against the Most High God, confess them before Him with the sincerest penitence, implore His pardoning mercy through the great Mediator and Redeemer for our past transgressions, and that through the grace of His Holy Spirit we may be disposed and enabled to yield a more suitable obedience to His righteous requisition. Righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people." Well, the prayers of the country were answered, and a second great awakening revival spread across America. And there were universities being formed, and hospitals and medical clinics, and a missionary movement that went from Hawaii to Burma, and all kinds of American Bible Society, American Tract Society, and different denominations being started. So where France had a revolution that was turning away from the Christian faith, America had a revolution that began with Christian faith and afterwards had a second great awakening revival. America is unique in world history, and especially for its faith. And it's important for us to remember these miracles in American history.